Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about Hawkeye episode 3 titled Echoes. So I cover a lot of shows on my channel. Hawkeye's obviously the biggest show out there right now. These big Marvel shows like Star Wars, they always get a lot of the publicity, everything that's going on. So, the way I'm going to cover this show is that it's going to be a spoiler review. So I'm not going to do spoiler free like I did for the first two episodes. So if you're going to continue to watch this video, you've already seen the episode. Don't come here if you haven't seen it yet. And so, I'm not going to do a full recap like I always do. With all my other episode reviews, I kind of go through step by step at what happened. For Hawkeye, you've seen the episode. You probably just watched it today because it just dropped today. I feel like we don't need to go through step by step about what happened. Let's talk about the big moments. Let's theorize about what happened. We can make it like a fun little thing. I'm going to keep these episodes nice and short, but let's just get into it. So right off the bat, the episode begins with a flashback for the character of Echo, right? We saw her at the end of episode 2. I thought this was really good, having flashbacks for her as a little girl, just to see her as a smart, deaf girl, and we see the teacher scene where she knows all the answers, figuring out that as we fast forward, why she's so mad at Ronan, it's because Ronan killed her father, and we got a nice little flashback scene where we got to see the father be really sympathetic and compassionate to his daughter, a really nice scene. To see him die, it adds some sympathy for that character, even though she's supposed to be a bad girl, a villain, I think, from what I've seen. I don't know her character that much in the comics, but I thought adding all those flashbacks for her was really good since, an Echo show was announced. We're getting an Echo show just on her, so we needed that background for her. So I really enjoyed that to start out the episode. This is where I started to get my first inklings of, Kingpin. If you guys have heard the rumors, about this show, I think we are getting Kingpin in the show. It's what everyone's talking about. And, this episode, we got a lot of hints at Kingpin, I think, or some sort of mysterious uncle character. But one thing I want to point out is that, in the comics, I'm pretty sure I'm not a comic. I don't want to say I'm not a comic sweat when it comes to Hawkeye or even Marvel comics in general. I've read a couple of them. I've read a good amount. And so, but from my knowledge, I know that Kingpin is the adopted father of Echo, of Maya, right? That's what I heard. So I thought maybe once the father died, I was like, oh, maybe this is how Kingpin comes into her life. Maybe becomes this mentor, father figure for her. We don't get that in this episode, but I thought maybe that might come about later on. So after these flashbacks, we see her confront Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, where now, they're tied up on the unicorn, ride that they're on, right? Whatever they're called, the kid ride. And so, they, talk, whatever. The most important thing that I took out of it was that Hawkeye tells Maya, Echo, that Black Widow is the one that killed Ronan. So nobody knows that Hawkeye is Ronan, right? But now Hawkeye is telling her that Black Widow killed Ronan. Which makes sense because, Maya sort of confirms it. She's like, oh, so Black Widow, she's dead too. So now she can't even hunt down Black Widow if that's what she wanted to do. Even though, or maybe she wanted answers of who Ronan really was. But it seems like Echo and Hawkeye have known each other, and that, or they at least know of each other. The way they talk, it seems like they have maybe a little bit of a past. But she obviously doesn't know that Hawkeye's Ronan, or else she'd kill him right there on the spot probably. So I thought this was interesting to throw in Black Widow here. I wonder how that's going to play out when her sister Yelena comes into the show. I'm going to be interested in that when she shows up. After this, Hawkeye ends up escaping. We get this cool Echo versus Hawkeye fight scene. I thought that was really well done. I thought that was really cool. And then she knocks his hearing aid out. So then there's a couple of scenes after where he doesn't have his hearing aid and he can't hear anything. He's very vulnerable. I thought that was really interesting to have him like that because there will be a time in this show, you already know it, when his new hearing aid that he gets later on in the episode, it's going to break again. Maybe at a really important moment, and he won't be able to hear anything. And that's going to be if they do it well, that's going to be a really cool, suspenseful scene. As we saw when he's in his kitchen, and Kate Bishop comes behind him, and he can't even hear, he doesn't even know. So imagine if that same scene happened in the future, but let's say, it's Echo behind him, or Kingpin, or something like that, a very ominous, suspenseful scene. I think that'd be really well done. Cool dynamic for his character, but let's continue. And so what ensues next is this big car chase scene, right? So there's a lot of callbacks to the Matt Fraction comic book, which I'm currently reading now. It's so funny. Last night I was just reading the comic. I'm up to the third chapter. And in that chapter, it's the trick arrows and car chase scene, the strips or whatever. And so the fact that I just read that last night and then this episode is all about that, I thought that was really cool. And you see a lot of callbacks. The red Charger, the red Challenger that Kate Bishop notices, that's a callback to the comics since they use that. The trick arrows, that all happens in the comics. And I think the comic book writer's name is Matt Fraction. Big controversy is happening right now. Everyone's upset that they're not paying him more since they're taking so much from his comic. And then the art style, the intro is just from his comic. And I agree, he should be getting paid more than whatever they're paying him. These writers of this show, Obviously, they're deterring from the comics, but they're also pulling so much from that storyline. And that storyline did so much for these characters in the first place. So they should be paying him a lot more than whatever they're doing, because it is his story in a lot of ways. I love those callbacks. More callbacks was when they're in the dinner scene, and the diner, and she draws Hawkeye, but like the original version of him, and to see like his funny little suit that she referenced, the purple suit. I thought that was really cool, a little nod to the past. And then two other scenes I liked before we get into the juicy stuff about theories was the Hank Pym arrow with the Pym particles arrow. I love that. Thought that was really cool. And then in that same diner scene where Hawkeye he doesn't see himself as a role model. I thought that was really deep, really cool for that character. Like he's got so much hurt, and it's really like, dude, this guy's been around for what, since 2012 as the character, and the MCU just does such a good job at everything that he's been through. It all comes back to him here in this episode, where he doesn't see himself as a role model. He sees himself as like a bad guy, not someone to look up to, even though he's trying to do good. And I think he knows that. He just knows that he's done a lot of bad too, and I think that mostly comes from Ronan as well, And I'm wondering what Kate Bishop's reaction is going to be when she finds out Hawkeye is Ronan, even though I think she sort of knows. I think she knows. That scene where she brings it up, and she was like, you must know Ronan. You're keeping that identity. I feel like she sort of knows that it is him, but she doesn't want to say it yet. So I love that scene. And now the two things about Kingpin here, right? So there's one scene where Maya's talking to her translator guy, right? And he brings up this guy named Uncle. And this uncle would be mad that she's hunting down Ronan, right? So obviously my first thing I went to was Kingpin, right? And, calling him uncle, that could be like, instead of him being the adopted father of Maya, like I said, it could be like a fatherly figure to Maya that she calls uncle. Maybe the dude has to play in that as well, some sort of adopted thing that he's doing. I don't know. But I think the uncle figure is Kingpin. That was my first thing. And then someone towards the end, Hawkeye tells Kate that there's someone above Maya that you don't want to mess with. I thought of Kingpin again. Obviously, take all this with a grain of salt, because we don't want to get Mephisto again like WandaVision. I wasn't had a YouTube channel during WandaVision, but during WandaVision, I was really big in the Mephisto thing. I was like, it's coming, it's here, like all these little signs, they're throwing so much at us, like it's Mephisto behind all this. And then we got Ralph Boner, and that was it. We could easily get Ralph Boner again in this show. Everyone thinks it's Kingpin. The person above Maya could easily be someone else. I don't know who. Maybe once I finish up the comic from Matt Fraction, I could have a better idea if they're going some route with the comic. But I'm not sure. And then the very ending shot where the swordsman holds Ronan's sword up to Hawkeye, and that's how the episode ends. So this is interesting as well. I know in the comic that they know each other, the swordsman and Hawkeye in the comic. I think they both trained under the same guy, under the same mentor. So I think they would go that route in the show. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that'd be a cool element if they know each other. Maybe that's why he holds up the sword to Hawkeye. So, I'm going to give you guys my rating for the show right now. I'm giving it 3.6 out of 5. It's a lot of good setup for future episodes. Like all the stuff with Echo. We got a lot of background Echo in the beginning. Like I said, I love that a lot. And it sets up her character to be really good moving forward and in the future of the MCU. All this uncle stuff, someone that's bigger than Maya, that's above Maya, that's setting up for someone big to come in the later half of the season. Could it be Kingpin? I'm really hoping it is. I do think it is. I do believe the rumors. But like I said, I believe the Mephisto rumors like 100%, and we never got that, right? So you never know with the MCU. And then I loved, like all those, everything I talked about, the things I liked. It was all really good. It's just not great yet, but I think the show is going to end up being great. Like a 3.5 is sort of like a 7 out of 10 range. I think that's where these episodes have been. But I think could easily get to like an 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5 range, easily. And I do think there will come a point in this show where I'm rating it above, episodes above, like 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5 consistently. Because I do think it's going to get there. Third episode, a lot of third episodes and a lot of shows, it's a lot of, setup for what's to come, especially in the first season of this show. I'm not expecting anything great in the third episode of a show. So 3.5 I think is safe, it's good, it's where the show should be. And I do think the show's going to fall in the back end of the Marvel shows that we've gotten so far. I think it's what a lot of people feel like. I saw that this is the least watched Marvel show so far. I mean, it makes sense. It's Hawkeye, right? Not everyone's a huge Hawkeye fan. It's not like Wanda, who's become a fan favorite, or Loki. And those stuff deal with more multiversal stuff, which is more interesting than a grounded, New York City crime boss show, right? But I do think Hawkeye will be really good. Like I just said, I do think it's going to fall behind Falcon or Soldier. I like Falcon or Soldier, but that doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Still think it's going to be a great show. Still going to be one of my top shows for 2021 probably. Really enjoying it so far. Really loving it. But let me know down below what you guys thought of the episode. But most importantly, if you guys have any theories on Uncle or anything that's been going on, anything I missed, please let me know in the comments down below. Please make sure to like this video if you guys end up enjoying it. If you watched for this long, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just love the MCU and making Hawkeye videos. So this is just a little something for me, a little bit something for you if you end up watching this. And please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of the day.